So this has been quite an adventure so far working on this mandolin. I'm not exactly a woodworker, so that when I get down to the level of refinishing spots on the mandolin, it's been a challenge to figure it out. So let me show you what I've been doing so far. I think where we left off before, I was gluing up the cracks in the mandolin. You can see that I have managed to get a number of things glued up. Circle there is at least partially put back in. This whole part of the mandolin was the laminations of the plywood were coming apart inside there. So I've done a number of things. Inside, underneath, I put in a cleat. There's actually a brace that goes across right here, and behind that brace I put in a cleat to get this part of the top all at the same level, and that was pretty successful. Then I worked this little chip that came out back in here, and so I was able to come up with some touch-up marker that seems to be a very good match. You'll notice in the cracks along here I've got quite a bit of crazy glue because I'm building it up in stages to fill these cracks, and then what I've been doing is using a razor blade with some tape on it so that I can control the depth that I go, and I've been working along this crazy glue and basically scraping it so that I can get it down to the level where it needs to be. I think it's probably obvious already that it's going to be unlikely that I'll get this back to perfect condition, but hopefully I can get it back to a condition that is presentable. We'll have some spots on this side that I've been working on where the glue up on the edge was not perfect. Maybe I'll try a little bit of sanding here. I'm going to have to retouch this. This is just 600 grit using double-sided tape to put it on the bottom of this little knob I had. Good way of holding it and keeping things level. Very difficult to get this evened out and not damage any other part of the finish. But there were a number of places where there were cracks where I had to use crazy glue or super glue to get down inside these cracks and and do a quick glue. And when that happens, then you have to do a lot of scraping afterwards to take off the excess glue and bring it back to normal, and then do some sanding. And so I did some of that. But the finish suffers in that, and it is awfully difficult to get it perfect. I have a number of places here where I've had anywhere between 5 and a dozen coats of glue in these cracks, or in these cracks along here, and then I've scraped it down and started again, and it's still not perfect. Then I had to try and figure out how to bring back the color. One thing I did use was these touch-up markers. I found this one which was very close to the right color, and being transparent, you never bring it back to as dark a finish. So I used a combination of that and some of these, they're essentially like crayons, but they're touch-up markers, and I had to use a combination of brown and black. And so once I got as close as I could with that, then I tried a paintbrush and painted over some of those markers, because I was afraid that it might not stick, and that seems to have worked. So where we're at right now on this is, I think I've got the coloring as close as I can get it, and now I'm needing to put a finish on it, and I think I'm going to use this Varathane and spray it, and then I'll sand it down with very fine sandpaper, and we'll see if we can put on a number of layers and see what we end up with. One other thing I might mention is that the white circular lines, they were already partially worn off when I started all this, and they've taken a little bit of a beating. I tried to do some freehand painting of those lines with a white paint, and I just can't do it smoothly enough to justify trying that. So I think we may have to stick with the road-worn look on this. I may try again after I've got some Varathane on this to get those circles fixed somehow, but I haven't figured out how I can make that happen. Okay, so here is the Mandolin after my first application of some clear Varathane, and it seems to have gone on pretty good to it. Of course, there's a kind of a pebbly finish to it, and I'm going to do a light sanding, and I'm not sure how many coats I will need in order to get that smooth, but I'm pretty happy with what I'm seeing so far. I'm finding that the sandpaper, which is 600 grit by the way, which might be a little too coarse for this job, but I was going to say the sandpaper is picking up little particles, and so I have to clean it quite often. Not sure where those are coming from, but I'm just going to try and take the high spots off a little bit. Just get the tops of the little pebbles off, and then I'm going to apply another application of Varathane to it. Here's my setup for doing my spray painting. Nothing fancy, just out in my garage. Okay, so let's give these tuners a little bit of TLC here. Try a drop of oil first. And that seems to move it quite a bit better now. That one's better anyway. So it's pretty good. That one's good. That one was the one that was mostly stiff. Okay, so here's where I'm at with this mandolin. I put the strings on it and tightened them up and tuned them. I was able to tune it, and it was playable, but the action is extremely high. And there's quite a bit of bow in the neck, but there's no truss rod in this to make an adjustment for it. Probably the simplest way to get some improvement of the action is to cut down the height of the bridge, although maybe a neck reset would be in order, but I think that would be a little too extreme at this point, and we just never know with the condition that this instrument's in right now whether that's either worth it or going to turn out very well. So I'm thinking of trying to cut down the bridge a little bit. It might get a little better action, and it might be good enough for playability if a person wants to play it a bit. I think this particular instrument may be more of a keepsake, so maybe the playability isn't as high a priority as just making sure that this thing hangs together. My best guess is that I need to take a couple of millimeters off the height of this bridge, and that hopefully will give us a little better action in playing it. So that's what I'm going to do, and because probably the correct way to do it is to take it off the bottom, but I think that's going to be a problem with this bridge, so I think I'm going to take a couple of millimeters off the top and redo the grooves, and we'll see how that works. It may be not the conventional correct way to do it, but that's what I think I'm going to try in this case. A bridge at least could be replaced again. We could get another bridge if we had to, so we're going to give this a try. This bridge, the total height is about 1 centimeter, so I'm going to try and take about 2 millimeters off of that, and I'll probably use an abrasive tool of some sort to take that off. And then I'll probably have to narrow the edge again, and I'll need to put back in the grooves for the strings.
Oh.
Okay, so here it is. I've cut down the bridge and re-notched it. It's not great in terms of its action. The action's still pretty high, and it's possible that lowering the bridge a little further might help a bit. But I was reluctant to go too low with it. It's dry, so I'm a little concerned that if it's left in this condition and left to the open air and kept tuned up to the right level, that it could break again. So I'm not sure if the customer wants to use this for an actual playing instrument, or if they just want to keep it as a keepsake. If they want to hang it on the wall or whatever, I would advise that they probably should loosen off the strings. But it's not looking too bad. I'll give it one more little dusting and polishing, and we'll take it from there and take it back to the customer and see what they think. Here, I only know 2 chords on the mandolin, but here we go. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next one.